This podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors. Schnee Legal Services. Attorney Chad Schnee and his team strive to be accessible, responsive, and affordable. At Schnee Legal, your trust is their top priority. You can go to schneelegal.com. It's SCHNEE legal.com. Murphy Wealth Management, operating out of Plains, Pennsylvania, a trustworthy, experienced group. Call 570-357-2150 for all your financial planning needs. Royalty Self-Storage, your treasure, our vault, 570-313-4480. Red's Barbershop in Ashley, specializing in men's and boys' cuts, 570-417-7697. And R&D Memories in Hanover Township, events and catering specialists, rndmemories.com. So it's RANDDmemories.com. Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Citizens Advisory Podcast presented by the Citizens Advisory Pennsylvania. I'm Jess Stahlnecker, Executive Director. Today, I am super excited because I am joined by Chris Barrett, the Missouri chapter leader for Gays Against Groomers. And I have been following Gays Against Groomers for, I think, since Tucker Carlson told me that they were taken off of X or, Facebook or one of those years ago, probably 2 years ago. And I've actually seen some clips of you addressing school boards, the Missouri legislature. And I just want to say how much I appreciate what you're doing. So welcome, Chris.
Hey, Jess, I'm so glad to be here. This is so very exciting. Yeah. And hello to everyone in Pennsylvania for sure. So, and by the way, we need some growth in Pennsylvania. So, if we can get some members for Gays Against Groomers, that'd be great.
That's awesome. We do. We need some membership here. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Chris, but also, give me a little background on you, but also how you got involved with this organization.
Sure. So interestingly enough, I actually have a background in computer science. I mean, that's my original background, but due to some health issues and stuff, like I have cancer, yada, 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 all that type of junk. I decided not to pursue that. And right now I'm just an average Joe, delivery driver. That's what I do.
Doing great.
And I think it's perfectly fine, because we need blue collar workers out there in the United States. We really help, make the society function.
Absolutely.
As far as my joining Gays Against Groomers is concerned, I started seeing on social media and in the news a lot of things that started really concerning me, especially this notion of drag queen story hours, drag shows for kids. And then I think the thing that really set me off was when I found out that they were actually doing so-called gender transitions for kids. That was the thing that really set me off. And I was like, no, 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 no. And it felt like it was all being done in the name of my community. And I was like, I never signed up for this.
Right.
So Jamie, Michelle, and Jamie, for those who don't know, is the founder of Gays Against Groomers, kind of met up on Twitter when it was still called Twitter, and started talking. And one thing led to another, and I founded the Missouri chapter. And we've been doing some amazing things in Missouri. But beyond Missouri, we're in 25 states now, I think. So that's great. We've had astronomical growth. So there are lots of other gay people just like myself who saw this and were appalled by what they were seeing. And basically it was like, no, you can't be doing this in our name. We didn't sign up for this. This is not what we signed up for. Right. Gay people just generally, we wanted our rights to, maybe have our families and get married and that sort of thing. And then we were willing to pack up our bags and go home. But that's evidently not what's going on right now. But I'm not sure that that's necessarily representative of the gay community so much as it is kind of like a new force that has kind of taken over our organizations and that sort of thing. So I felt like I had to do something, and Gays Against Groomers seemed like the right way to go about it. And thank thankfully, Jamie had something for me to do. I took up her offer, and here we are.
Well, I am just honestly so thankful that we have people like you who are willing to stand up for those things. And what's the wristband say? Leave the kids alone.
Leave the kids alone. Yes,
Kids
that's
alone.
on every single one of our Gays Against Groomers wristbands that we have. So if you ever get one, it'll say "Leave the kids alone."
Yes. So as a parental rights organization, we really do kind of align with what, exactly what you're talking about right now is that, these kids need to be educated, not indoctrinated. They need to be kept safe and, not be exposed to, sexually explicit things, that aren't age appropriate. So I think really quick before we get into like the meat and potatoes and like the specific issues that your organization and our organization are both equally concerned about, I think it's interesting to mention that Gays Against Groomers has been suspended on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter more than once. You said that your own, when we were talking earlier, your own personal account on Twitter was suspended and never reinstated. So why do you think that there is such a huge push by big tech to kind of silence this message?
Well, we get into a little bit of the ESG stuff, environmental, social governance stuff. I think there's a little bit of that. In order to, get certain investors to come on board, they have to meet kind of criteria that make sure that they are as politically correct as possible. And so I mean I think that's where that's coming from, because I mean, let's face it, big businesses, they don't have a soul. It really, it's not so much that they actually necessarily believe in this stuff. It's just that they're doing what they need to do in order to get some money, and there are some big money people,
Yep.
backers, investors, I guess you could say, that are very interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, in order to get that money, they do what they can to appeal to it. And so, I think that when people like me or organizations like Gays Against Groomers come around and push back against those notions, they feel like they have to clean up their platforms of the trash like us,
Yeah.
get rid of us.
So wait, you said earlier, what was your account suspended for?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I basically said that a man can't be a woman, and that got my account suspended initially on Twitter. The original account was never reinstated. I had another one that was also banned when before Elon Musk, and that one did get reinstated. So you can find me at Midwest Homo 77
On X?
on X.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's crazy, kind of this push. When we talked a little bit, both of our organizations have to be pretty politically neutral, right? We have to be like nonpartisan, bipartisan, or, um, we really can't side one way or another. But we talked earlier about this push kind of from the left, where there's this really radical kind of agenda to sexualize our kids. And one of the things that we're starting to see now is what you said, drag queen story hours, drag shows that say that they're family friendly. So what are some of the things that you've done as an organization to try and raise awareness and kind of get rid of some of these things?
Well, the organization as a whole has been amazing across the country. I think that we have our hands in, what is it, 19, 20 states banning the so-called gender affirming care for kids. We are constantly working to get these drag shows for kids shut down. We are sending members to school board meetings to make sure that inappropriate books aren't being shown to kids and are taken out of the library. And and just as an aside, we're not into book banning.
Right.
That's what people like to say. But that's not what we're doing. We're not saying these books can't exist. We're just saying that they're not appropriate for kids, so keep them out of the library. That's it. I
Mhm.
mean, if adults want to read them, that's their business. And in the weird occasion that an adult may want to show this to their kid, that's their business too.
Right.
Um, but I'd like to say, at least in the state of Missouri, which is where I'm from, um, a lot has gone on. We did ban childhood sex changes. We're in the process of banning drag shows for kids. That's HB 1650 for anyone who's interested and wants to just, I don't know, call a random Missouri representative and just let them know that you support it.
Got it.
Um, I don't care where you're from, just call,
Just call
look
them.
it up. House.mo.gov, I think is what it is. So just look up one and support it. Um, so we've got that going on. We've again, just like the national organization has done, gone to school board meetings, city council meetings, all those types of things. We do research into what's going on and try to make sure that we're as well informed as possible about these issues so that we have the ammunition that we need in order to bring these things to politicians and say, hey, this is what you're actually doing, whether you think you are or not. And I think that we've been pretty effective. And I think the thing that makes us so effective, and this is kind of, I don't know, an unfortunate part of our society, but right now, it seems to be that if you're a heterosexual person, parent, going into these school board meetings or city council meetings, what happens to you is you're immediately called a homophobe or a transphobe, and you're dismissed.
Hmm.
And no one seems to care what you have to say.
Right.
They have a little bit harder time doing that with us. And
Right.
trust me, we're aware of that advantage that we have. So we go ahead and try to not necessarily partner, but I guess you could say work with and represent those voices that get drowned out by the craziness because we can get through it. And that doesn't stop people from calling me a homophobe. I've been called a homophobe, even though I'm a gay man. My husband would be very disappointed in knowing that I'm a homophobe. But so that has happened. So we're kind of all over doing things as far as like multiple levels of government. I'd say the only thing that we haven't really touched on, maybe as an organization, is the national government. But really, when it gets down to it, I think that the state and local politics are what's most important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's definitely the place to start because they're really the ones that are most directly affecting us as citizens of those areas. So, again, like I think it's so great that you're going to these school board meetings, that you're going to the local like city council meetings and all of those things. And I also think that it's really cool that you're using your community to like help, like you said, parents like us who a lot of times will be attacked even by like who you would think would be just like people, like just your average citizen, a lot of times are like appalled that we would even suggest that there should be a book taken out of a library, or appalled that we would even suggest that there should be a bathroom that is exclusive to girls and exclusive to boys. Like there, you know we're attacked for it. So we
Sure.
appreciate that you're using your group and your organization to kind of stand in the medial area there and help us out. um we I want to talk a little bit about this book banning thing, because I think you're exactly right. We work a little bit with Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty has been attacked over and over again for their stance on getting those books out of school libraries. And we it's amazing how the narrative is flipped around. So immediately it's book banning. But do you remember when the current administration in the White House like wanted to ban Dr. Seuss? Wasn't that like immediately after they took office? They were literally talking about banning Dr. Seuss, and now we're just questioning the content of some of these explicit books, and they are acting like we're book banning. So have you guys made any headway in Missouri? Because we're in Pennsylvania, it's tough. We actually just had new school board members who were sworn in on pornographic books. That's in a couple counties to the southeast of me. And so it's becoming kind of a hot button issue in Pennsylvania. So have you guys had any luck in Missouri?
Well, we have had some luck, but it was under existing Missouri law, which basically one of the worst offenders, I would say, in a lot of people's minds is the book Genderqueer.
Mm.
And that is illegal in the state of Missouri to be in a school, period. It's just considered too obscene. It doesn't pass Missouri obscenity laws. So the book was never allowed here in the first place. Um, I will say going to various school board meetings, city council meetings, the unfortunate thing is, are that a lot of these local politicians are not brave to say, I want to use another word that starts with P, as far as what they actually are.
Yeah.
And they're not, which is why I have started finding that for me in Missouri, it's better for me to deal with stuff on a state level.
Hmm.
And, it doesn't stop me from trying on the local level, but getting any sort of headway with these people. I mean, going to like the school board meetings and stuff like that, the school board members sit there and look at you like this, like they're utterly bored,
Yeah,
you know?
no, we definitely have seen the same.
Hmm. Yeah. And so they're kind of useless to a certain degree. Where I'm finding that I am getting some headway as far as like dealing with like the local school board stuff is I have personally started making sure that I'm endorsing the right candidates and stuff like that for school board.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for instance, in the city that I live in Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City, I have made sure to make myself very well aware of who's running for school board. So on April 2nd, there's an election coming up, and I'm making sure to support the right candidates because, at least in my school district, we can show that, or at least in the school district that I live in, I should say, we can show that we can keep this stuff out as long as we're electing the right people.
Hmm.
So, like for instance, our school district doesn't have a DEI department or anything like that.
Yeah.
And they're very proud of the fact that they don't have anything like that. And the books are, there's some inappropriate books that I've come across there, but I mean, what they are dealing with is nothing like a lot of other school districts that I've dealt with. So, I mean, they've done a really good job. So, I think the best advice that I can give to people when it's not going to the school board meetings. Forget that. They're not going to pay attention to you.
Right.
What is most important is to make sure the right people are elected so that you don't have to go to the school board meeting in the first place.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed with that. We always say elections have consequences, and we're seeing that. We're seeing the consequences of the elections, even here in the state. Pennsylvania seems to be going more and more like we're following California. Honestly, it's becoming that kind of extreme. We just had a school district nearby, probably about an hour away, who we commended and we supported a bill that would keep the bathrooms and locker rooms exclusively based on biological gender. And then there was an election, and those school board members lost their seats. And so, what was the first thing that the new school board got rid of was that common sense policy. They got rid of that. And so now bathrooms are based on gender identity and locker rooms. And in Pennsylvania, all we have to do in terms of like a junior high, girl or boy that wants to be a girl or play on the girls team, all that has to happen here is the principal just has to sign off and say, okay. So we're fighting a lot of stuff here that, seems to be kind of barreling down in the wrong direction. But you're absolutely
Well,
right.
yeah, and I mean, you're not alone. Colorado has lost its mind. Obviously, we know California is kind of a lost cause.
Mhm,
New York is dealing with a lot of these problems. Illinois, same thing.
mhm.
You know, so I think the best thing for parents to do is to speak out, help the candidates locally that are going to help just prevent this stuff overall, and you know then we're probably good, at
Yeah,
least in my opinion.
yeah.
But you were speaking about uh what was it, the oh, never mind.
Bathrooms, locker
The
rooms.
bathroom thing.
Mhm,
Yes, you were talking about the bathroom thing. Thank you. And anyway, so that was an important thing that came up in Missouri, and we haven't really gone anywhere with it.
mhm,
But what we did do is we did make sure that biological males cannot play in female sports in high school, in college, all that type of stuff.
mhm.
So we did make a huge change there. Of course, the ACLU got all ticked off about it, but forget them, of course, because they're going to be mad about everything that you do that's decent. And remember, everybody, the ACLU defended NAMBLA. What was it, in the year 2000? And that is the North American Man Boy Love Association. They defended pedophiles. So I think the ACLU has lost any right to any moral authority in this country. So ignore them entirely.
100%. 100%. Um, I have seen a couple videos on the Gays Against Groomers Instagram, where you are, at a protest, or, you guys are showing up at various protests. Can you tell me like a little bit about what the environment is like there, and kind of how you're able to like maintain a like peaceful, situation? Because that gets a little intense.
Our protests tend to be very intense. Wherever we show up, the trans rights activists always make sure to show up. And by the way, regardless of whether what we're talking about even involves them or not. In fact, I don't think that I've done any protest that has ever had anything to do with a trans person. But they're always there. They're always there. So what I do is I make sure to coordinate with local police departments.
Mhm.
And so for instance, last year we had Gays Against Groomers had a fairly decent sized protest in St. Louis because the St. Louis Pride was deciding that we shouldn't involve kids in Pride, which you know by the way, guys, here's the funny thing: anyone watching, kids are supposed to be able to be there, but we had adults, men and women, walking around with their butts hanging out of their clothes. So this is a child-friendly event. Yeah, sorry, that doesn't pass.
Right.
Anyway, but back to the main point. We I just coordinated with the St. Louis Police Department, and I had a particular detective's phone number. And so everything that was going down, if anything seemed a little bit off, I was on the phone with him. Same thing happened in Kansas City. We had the crazy trans rights activists. I had somebody come up and start pushing me because he knew who I was and recognized me
Oh.
and was like, "You're that hateful MFer from Gays Against Groomers, aren't you?" And he's like, "I have a trans kid." Or no, what did he say? "I have a trans daughter." And I was like, "Oh, you mean you have a son?" And anyway, he didn't like that. So I went ahead and stepped back, though. I mean, I probably shouldn't have said what I said, but I went ahead and stepped back and I was like, "Dude, I'm calling the police right now. Like, you know, we're cool."
Mhm.
And he took off running, and the police did show up. I mean, they were there in like 30 seconds. So I mean, if you're going to do a protest, and this is just my advice to anybody that wants to protest this type of stuff, make sure that you coordinate with your local police departments.
Sure. Yeah, that's smart. And especially in bigger cities. I mean, where we are right now. Again, I'm not like, I probably won't be showing up at any protests anytime soon, but it just thought that it was very interesting. I was like, how do you maintain your own safety? I think it's really it's a risk that you're taking to be there and to be, standing up for, what we believe is the right thing. Um, I have one last, and we always like to do this in our podcast, is we kind of like to end with some encouragement for parents because as a parent, sometimes we feel like we're spinning like in this really bad direction. But I personally already think you have been encouraging just by saying, just by talking about some of the ways that you guys are making headway with your organization. And so I would just love for you to kind of give a little bit of encouragement to parents, and you already said your best advice is to make sure you're vetting the candidates for all different local elections, which is so true. Um, but if you were to, give one piece of encouragement, what would it be?
Well, I think the situation that we're dealing with, as far as this perversion that's being allowed to be unleashed upon our children, is going to self implode at some point in time. Whether that's through their own making or the very fact that our society is going to decide, no, you went too far.
Mhm.
So I think that day is coming. So keep your voices loud and clear. Keep yourself informed. Make sure you know what you're talking about because I mean they will try to catch you off guard.
Mhm.
So do those things and just watch them destroy themselves because eventually that's what they're going to do. I mean, honestly, I said I wouldn't get too political, but I will say it's like any other Marxist ideology because that's what this is.
Mhm.
It will self implode.
Yeah. Yeah, so true, Chris. Thank you. We really do. We really appreciate you being here and being willing to take the time out to talk to us today. Um, hey, just a reminder to our audience that sharing is caring. So if you find this podcast valuable, please like, subscribe, share. You can find our podcast anywhere you listen: Spotify, Apple, Amazon. And you can also find Gays Against Groomers. You can just go to gaysagainstgroomers.com and that will take you to their Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They also have a podcast called The Dark Side of the Rainbow with Robert Wallace. He's the Arizona chapter leader. So they've got a lot of really good information out there. It's crazy how that even Gays Against Groomers has had to restart their Instagram account, like, I don't know how many times, and you guys have, like, 350,000 followers, so you are doing some good things, my friend, and I am so grateful to have met you and to have gotten to talk to you today, Chris. Thank you.
Absolutely, Jess. It was great to get to talk to you.
Take care.